Good morning, and good day to all of our listeners. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. Hey, I'm your host, Corwin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. If this is your very first time listening to this show, please make note and come back again. Our mission here is very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education, guys. We legacy build around here. We're legacy building. That is what we do. For all of our listeners that listen to us locally on WJNI 106.3, to my guy Terry Bass over there who puts it in, that work. He's been a staple in our community for years in radio. Thank you, man, for what you do. So if you listen there, hey, keep tuning in on Saturday mornings. If you're on our web platforms or wherever, guys, please make sure that you tune in every week for the latest episode. You can catch us at exitstrategiesradioshow.com, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We have with us the first-time home buyer, very best loan officer, none other than Debbie Berry over at Regions Bank. Debbie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are y'all out there?
I love your handle. First-time home buyer, very best loan officer. You and I go back for years. So for our listeners, guys, this is going to be a fun time because Debbie and I go back a long time. Because Debbie, you've been working in this market for how many years now?
23 this year.
You have been a staple in that corner, if you will, first-time home buyers. You're a champion, loan products catered to, down payment assistance, all those wonderful things, people that typically are trying to figure out how to overcome or get over that hurdle into homeownership itself. You've been right there at the hurdle, launching people up for years to get them over. If you don't mind, tell our listeners a little bit about you, who you are, where you came from, and what you do.
Okay, so my name is Debbie Berry. Again, I've been in the business for 23 years. Currently, I'm at Regions Mortgage, and I'm the community loan officer. So my first and foremost responsibility is to do my best to get first-time home buyers into a home through our grant program as well as our affordable loan programs that we offer at Regions. I actually left a comfortable W-2 job back in, 2000. Single parent, scared half to death. And I left the utility company after 10 years, and I decided to just kind of venture out in mortgages. I had done a little bit of mortgage work previously in the servicing aspect and processing. So this was like a big step because it was 100% commission, and then just being a single parent is like scary. But I did it, and things went great. My two kids went to college, so they're now grown and on their own. I just hang out by myself most of the time. I have several, a few close friends. I'm down here in Charleston. One's in the upstate, and then one's out in California.
Debbie, you're a community lender, mortgage officer. Let's break that down a little bit for our listeners that may not know. What does that mean?
Basically, I try to first-time home buyers to get into homes because a lot of loan officers out there who don't want to take the extra time to either teach individuals about home ownership, as well as just some of the programs, especially through state housing, can be a little paper consuming, a little more time consuming, so it doesn't always flow as easily. Your traditional borrower or people that have owned in the past. So it takes a little bit of hand holding and comforting people and just telling them, just remember that finish line, even if it's the first time in your family. I was a first time homeowner in my family too, so I know the struggle. I know how it feels to feel amazing afterwards when you've done it, and I've had my house 21 years now. It's a great accomplishment.
One of the things that many people don't realize is that everybody don't want to do everything. You kind of touched on that a little bit. Not every loan officer is willing to work with a consumer that, as you made mention of, needs a little bit more hand holding and nervous or jittery about their first home. And many people aren't that in touch with that consumer to understand their needs, their wants, and otherwise help them to further themselves along the path towards and to homeownership. And you've been doing this for a very long time. From someone who is in the community who sees, I see you. And first of all, I want to make sure I thank you for that work, because people like you are what make and who make a difference in our local communities in helping people of diverse backgrounds, whether they be of color, maybe they be of the majority, get into home ownership when they otherwise thought they'd never be able to accomplish it. So Debbie, thank you for the work that you do. I don't know if anyone has ever said that, but I'm always going to say it to you because I really appreciate the work that you do in our communities. You do a lot of down payment assistance programs. Is that right?
I am. So I'm still working on Region. I think the first community loan officer at Regions here locally. We're still working on implementing and bringing some additional programs into our product loan portfolio, just so we can offer more programs to customers, because right now we're kind of limited in what we can do. We're trying to get state housing. I've asked them to do the FHLB, which is the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta, because they have a really great down payment assistance program. I do work with the city of Charleston, their housing initiative, but of course their housing inventory is very, very limited. I'm still working on the Hometown Heroes. I don't know much about that program, but we're trying to get some additional information. I know Regions offices in Florida offered the Hometown Heroes, so we're trying to get it up here in Charleston too, or in South Carolina.
So you touched on a number of different programs. So let me back up a little bit on that same vein, because I want you all to understand that just because you want to buy a house don't mean that you qualify for down payment assistance. We've been on tour, started leading into the summer, been on tour, giving information out in the communities of how to buy an affordable house under these programs, because that's completely different than just buying a house in general. You got to know the rules, regulations, all this other stuff. Let's touch on some of those programs that you mentioned. What are qualifications for those? Because people hear down payment assistance, so I can get money to buy a house, and they want to run out and go buy a house, and they find out, oh, wait a minute, well, I don't fit this particular criteria. What is the criteria for someone to get down payment assistance on the programs that you may have mentioned?
So I think the credit scores are fairly reasonable on most down payment assistance programs. They're on the lower end of the spectrum. Debt to income ratios are going to be a little tighter because you are doing a higher loan to values. You as a lender are taking a greater risk when it comes to the first time home buyers. You have to be a first time homeowner. Well, I shouldn't say that. Most of them allow you to get one if you have owned a home in the past. Just you cannot own a home at the time that you close on this new home. But with some programs, you can't have owned a home within the last 3 years. We need clarification on that. I'll be glad to go over it.
Credit score is what, 620? Middle score, kind of what some of them are?
Regions on their 97% affordable program, it's a 620 score, that's pretty low for just a 3% down payment program. With 100%, it's 640. So a little bit higher because you're not investing any kind of down payment into purchasing that home. The grant, there's really not any kind of like credit score. It's just if you get approved on the first mortgage from Regions, then they pretty much will give that to you. The other caveat to down payment programs is you will have some income restrictions. We do have a $77,120 income restriction in the Charleston area. That is qualifying income only, not total household. But also if the property happens to be in a low to moderate census tract, which there's still several areas around here that are, then the income restrictions are removed from the program. So you could actually get someone that makes a lot more money that possibly wouldn't have qualified prior to that can qualify for the affordable programs if it's in that low to moderate census tract.
That is interesting. Area median income and stuff is one of the things that we've been really talking about on the tour, defining that, because a lot of programs are based upon area median income. But what I just heard you say, you guys have, and a lot of these other programs are based upon total household income, where you're using just qualifying income. So that opens it up tremendously. If you got a 2-person household, 2 adults, or matter of fact, let's say it's a 4-person household, but 2 working adults, and one person is making $75,000 a year, the other person is making $100,000 a year, but the person at $75,000 is the one whose sole income you're using to qualify for that purchase. You can do that?
Yep. And we don't acknowledge the other person as long as they're not on that loan. Yep. That mortgage note. Yeah, exactly.
That's a game changer to still be an affordable product. That's a game changer. So listeners, I need y'all to take that in. I need y'all to hold on. I need you to go pull this episode. I need you to hit that section right there we were just at. I need you to listen to it. I need you to hit rewind. I need you to go back. I need you to listen to it again. I need you to do that one more time, because there's significance in that where a lot of people are excluded from certain products. If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Debbie, let's say state housing as a loan product, you can't do that. Is it just a qualifying income? Or how do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, so state housing is total household income. So even if you have individuals in that home, if let's just say it's a married couple and only one of the couples qualifies, even if your husband's not on that loan, we're still going to look at his income. And then any children that are living in that home that are over 18 or over, we also have to look at any income they're bringing into the house to make sure that they meet the maximum income restrictions for South Carolina state housing. So sometimes that can be a struggle, even though their income restrictions are much higher, still can be a struggle when you're including all the household income.
The scenario I kind of pitch and then putting that or spinning that around into state housing, this person here will qualify to make a purchase, will qualify for your other programs internally at Regions. They would not qualify for this. That means two things. One, this person is going to be able to qualify. They're going to have greater affordability, just period, because their income and what you use to qualify them, they have a substantial amount of additional income in the house that wasn't even used for qualification,
Right.
wasn't even considered. So
Yeah.
that is a game changer. So now the right way to do this would be in that scenario, let's say it's husband, wife, or what have you. The right way to do that would be, well, one person, hey, look, I need a debt over here. We need to pay off all the debt on you.
Right,
Oh,
exactly.
but look here, hold on. Look here, I'm over here calculating right now. I'm thinking right now in my head who I need to call to say, hey, hold on. I need you to meet me at my office because I don't figure this thing here out. You guys have these programs internally. You have a 97%, you have a 100%. And your 100% and 97%, they both work off of the same type of ratios and stuff we just talked about, the same
The
AMIs
only
and all that
difference
stuff.
is the score. Yeah, the score difference.
A lot of loan officers, you talked about it, and I know it. For our listeners, guys, I know it. I've known it for years. Some LOs don't want to put in the extra work. And I make it a point to talk to, work with the people that will put in the work. Because if you won't, then why am I giving you the easy peasy ones, the ones that don't have down payment assistance, when you won't work with the base I really want? My give back to people I really want to serve is the people that need the help getting over the hurdle. Let's talk about a lot of people, a lot of agents don't understand down payment assistance program. There's a lot of them. And in that, one of the common misconceptions is that it increases the amount of time for closing substantially. And it used to be the case. It used to be that you couldn't do a state housing loan a number of years ago. You automatically were locked in for 60 days to do it. Now you can do one in 30 days. Your programs internally, what does that look like? Timeline, time-wise, what does that look like?
Do you want something more meaningful moments, opportunities, deeper relationships, and memorable experiences? Do you want to make a difference? If you said yes, a career in real estate could be the opportunity you're looking for. Guiding people through one of the most important decisions they ever make. The purchase or sale of their home can be both rewarding and lucrative. Exit Realty has a revolutionary compensation model, training, and technology that provides you with the tools you need to start and build your successful real estate career. Call me today, Mimi Eubanks, your country realtor, at 843-730-3327. That's 843-730-3327. Or visit exitlowcountry.com/joinexit and make your exit today.
We still normally will close a loan in about 26 to 30 days. Again, it really depends on the title work, turnaround time, as well as the appraisal. The appraisal seems to be the thing that's taken a little bit longer than most other sections, and I usually always try to have my buyers approved by underwriting up front. So the only thing we have to do once they get a contract is order the title, get the appraisal. Once we've got those two things, then we can go ahead and resubmit it to underwriting for final approval so we can get our clear to close. And sometimes we have to do some updated documents depending on how much time's from them being credit approved before they actually found the house.
Sharing this, and listeners, I'm putting this information out there. Everybody looks at this stuff differently, so I'm very transparent. I don't worry about closing it. I take what the lender gives me. So Debbie, you tell me, hey, it's going to take us 45 days to get it done. I'm not giving you any questions or, any grief about it. I may ask a question or two to make sure I understand the process. but I know that, and I explain to my consumer, and in turn I explain to the other side of the table that, hey, look, this is how long it's going to take us to get it done. Period.
Exactly.
A lot of times agents just automatically assume, and everybody's trying to get to a closing table the next day. That's not how that happens. We got to make sure we know what the process is. So I appreciate you sharing that. So for our listeners, if you guys decide to work with anyone outside of myself or a member of our group here, then just understand, if you're local to Charleston, if you're elsewhere, you're working with who you're working with, but please make sure that they understand and get in contact with Debbie and get an idea on this timeline, because you don't want to get tied up in the transaction. Years and years ago, I had a situation where there was an agent that every deal they wrote with, because a particular lender that said they would close in 2 weeks. So every deal they wrote with a 2-week closing. And that's unrealistic. You're not closing in 2 weeks all the time. And they started having issues because different lenders couldn't offer anything like that, and stuff wasn't happening. So you want to make sure that you're contacting and working with the lender. You also made mention of Federal Home Loan Bank. How close are you guys to having that added to your repertoire?
That one, I'm not sure we're quite as close as the state housing.
Okay.
And the thing about the FHLB, even though it's like an amazingly great like down payment assistance program, it doesn't last very long. It usually is out about January, February, and then usually the funds are depleted by like May, sometimes June, just really depends. Sometimes they'll get a replenishment of funds, not very often. If you're looking for down payment assistance, the one thing to ask the lender that you decide to go with is, do they offer that type of down payment assistance? Especially if you are looking towards, like, if you're buying at the beginning of the year versus the end of the year.
And a lot of people have no idea about that program at all. It's limited who carries it. You're going to do it through a bank, not a broker, not just a mortgage company. I mean, you're going to do it through a bank. That's who they put these funds through. But they have a tremendous amount of programs, and there's some incentives. They have a higher level funds available for veterans and things of that nature.
Yes.
It's an awesome program. There's even funds available outside of the mortgage purchase piece for other things related to housing, rehab one, and stuff like that. It's a wonderful program. The opportunity for a consumer, though, is massive if they get plugged into the right people like you.
Yeah.
Debbie, drop a nugget on us. Before I do that, give us how people can get in contact with you.
Usually the best method is texting me at area code 843-817-4202, or my email is Debbie, which is DEBBIE .berry, like a strawberry, BERRY, at regions.com. I do want to share a link with you though, if you can maybe share it. It's a really great resource for first-time homebuyers. It's a pamphlet that Regions published, and it has a lot of really great information for first-time homebuyers, just so they can kind of educate themselves a little bit.
Our listeners, guys, that will be available on our website, guys, exitstrategiesradioshow.com. You'll go into the notes, hit the link, go straight to that collateral that Debbie's going to share with us. I'm super excited about that. So, Debbie, look, you ain't off the hook. And I call it my mic drop question, okay? So I want you, that one thing that if you would have known this, to share with other people way back yonder when, how much different everything would be right now. The thing that you wish you would have known, that somebody would have told you, that you can tell somebody right now to make all the difference in the world to them.
Don't get discouraged if you go and try to buy a house and at first it fails, whether it's debt to income ratios, whether it's credit score, whether it's assets. A lot of people don't understand they still need some assets, even though they'll be getting down payments. You still have to have some funds in the bank to cover other costs, upfront costs especially. If it doesn't work out the first time, don't get discouraged. Do what the loan officer instructs you to do. You have to really listen to what you're being told and then go from there. And if it takes a year, okay, so be it. That a year, maybe 2 years from now, you'll be in a home. It took me 3 years to get in a home, so it did.
This is the one thing for those people that, Debbie, look, I'm going to do it anyway. But for those who remember New Jack City, Nino said, don't get high on your own supply. But real estate is the one thing, or the one business that you want to get high on your own supply. You want to be engaged in the market. You want to make sure that you're understanding and that you're taking advantage. And a lot of agents are further along into that, meaning homeownership, investing or beginning to invest, and able to share with other people what that looks like and what that experience does for them, bigger picture. You can, because you're a homeowner. So you can share And you said 3 years. So now that's part of your story to share with other people as to your journey to home ownership. One and done. It wasn't, okay, boom, here you are. It is,
No.
okay, I had to work at it too.
Well, and another thing I want to share, this is kind of an encouragement. When I first started to look, I guess about this house in 2002, so it's probably the late 90s, I actually lived in a duplex, but I wanted to kind of live in a house first just to see if I could handle the responsibilities being a single person, like mowing your lawn, taking care of your house. So I wanted to rent first just to kind of see, make sure everything was good. And I was discriminated against because I was a female. So I ended up, and I was like really adamant. I was like, you're not going to tell me because I'm a female that I can't own a house of my own. Like, goodness gracious, we're in like 1999, 2000 at this point. And so I ended up taking them to the Consumer Affairs Office, and I actually won the case. That made me more adamant to become a homeowner as a single parent. I was like, no, I can do it just like anybody else, whether they have a husband or don't have a husband. I'm doing it on my own. And I did it.
Wow. First of all, Debbie, thank you so much for being on with us. Thank you so much for being a part of the Exit Strategy Radio Show family. For our listeners, guys, that was heavy right there. And that was real. Let's make sure that we pay attention. Let's make sure we ask questions. Let's not jump to conclusions and make assumptions.
Right.
But let's make sure we engage professionals and share and gather information so that we can have a better path forward. So again, Debbie, thank you so much for being on today's show. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for having me.
For our listeners, guys, our final time, y'all know what I say. Y'all know how I feel. Let's put the two of them things together. And I'm going to do it to you like this. I'm going to say, I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those
We all
streets.
love Corwin.